That's where you can find out more about us. But more importantly, I'm just going to hand over now to Phil Clothier from the Barrett Values Centre. I'll let him introduce their work, but it's wonderful to partner with them. And I think what's so inspiring about this is we're asking the most important questions now. What is it that matters most to us? What is it that matters most across our nation? So please welcome Phil Clothier from the Barrett Values Centre.
Thank you, Mark. Hi. Oh, I'm loud. My name's Phil Clothier. I'm the Chief Executive of a company called Barrett Values Centre, and our work is really about supporting leaders in building values-driven organisations. And the truth is that every organisation is already values-driven. The question is, are they conscious of those values, or are they unconscious? And that's really the key thing that we're looking at, to become conscious of the values so we can make the choices we want to create the lives that we want as well. So we're going to start with a quiz. And I'm going to show you the results of 3 different countries where we ask the question, select the values and behaviours that most reflect how your nation currently operates. And I'm going to show you 3 different countries, and you have to guess who they are. And so I really, for the moment, just want you to focus on these words here: freedom of speech, educational opportunities, prosperity, democratic process, financial stability. You can read the words. And to make it a little bit easier, it's not all nations. I've given you a selection here to choose from. So just shout out, who do you think this country might be? USA? Any others? Australia? Sweden. Okay. All right, let me show you now country B. France? Any others? Russia? Britain, maybe? Spain? Okay. Okay. And now, these are all real, by the way. Country C? Sweden? Denmark? Canada? Great. And I'm not going to tell the answers yet. I'm going to tell you at the end of my bit. But you've made some great guesses there. Okay. So, this is a friend of mine. She's an evolutionary biologist. Her name is Elizabeth Sartoris. And she talks about the evolution of humanity, how we got to where we've got to now, is really down to 2 things. One is the opposable thumb, the ability to manipulate tools, and the other one is storytelling. And storytelling is so powerful in an evolutionary sense, because when I tell you that I just did that, and you say, oh, I had no idea you could do that stuff. And now something that was previously not even possible in your life because you didn't know about it becomes a possibility. And then you can go and do it too. And that is the power of storytelling in creating new possibilities in people's lives. And so I want to tell you a story about a real situation that happened in 2008. We were asked to measure the values and culture of Iceland. And Richard was on Icelandic TV, and someone asked him the question, so what would you say about the results? And he said, if Iceland was a corporation, I would say you're just about to go bankrupt. And 2 weeks later, this happened. And in fact, so that was the start of the beginning of a whole new chapter. Because in Iceland now, what they've done is they've created an Iceland National Assembly. They've chosen 1,200 citizens to sit down with these results on a regular basis and talk about what are the values that are going to help us to rebuild Iceland as a place that we all want to live in. And so these crisis situations create a possibility of something new and good to come from it, because that was a bad situation in Iceland. Now, I want to take this down a step from a national level to an organizational level, because a huge amount of the work that we do is done at the organizational level, as I said, supporting leaders in building values-driven organizations. And when that's true, when we see those leaders with a sparkle in their eye, and that possibility of real transformation taking place, we see miracles happen. And I want to show you 2 real examples of the results that we get. And so, by the way, these are 2 organizations in the finance industry. And we asked the employees of organization A, select the values and behaviors that most reflect how your organization currently operates. And they said, client satisfaction, making a difference, integrity, teamwork, humor, fun, quality, ethics, financial stability. Now, all I need to tell you about the picture at the moment is that each word gets a dot on the picture. And you can see client satisfaction is level 2, so that dot there is client satisfaction. And a spread of dots across the levels, we consider that to be a good thing. We call that full spectrum consciousness. It means the organization is really taking care of all the things it needs to for its own self-interest needs, but also the bigger needs of society and the environment and other people. And then we asked the employees in organization B the same question: select the values that most reflect how your organization operates. And they said blame, short-term focus, internal competition, buck passing, risk-averse, information hoarding. So the organizations that you work in, or if you're not working at the moment, that we're working in, put your hand up if you're most like that organization there. Very good. Put your hand up if you're most like that organization there. Okay. Why are you still working there? All right. So one of the numbers we have is this number here called cultural entropy, which is a total percentage of all these limiting values. So blame, short-term focus, internal competition. It's the total percentage of all the negative energy within the system. And let me just give you a sense of what those numbers mean. So what we've found is that we've got a more graduated scale, but in rough terms, anything below 10% we consider to be healthy. Anything below 40%, we see organizations fail or go bankrupt or in some way have some major crisis. And so the amount of negative energy within the system really has an impact on the people. And in fact, if I just go back to here a second, this picture here, 2 white dots in a current culture is enough to tell us that there's fear showing up in the system. People were starting to be unhappy within that. This is a picture of a toxic organization. People are very likely to be getting sick in that sort of situation. So one more example, because values are becoming more and more mainstream. In fact, over the last 10 years, this work has gone from kind of weirdo status to pretty much mainstream now. But this idea that organizations put their values on the wall and they say, here are our values. Now, do people walk past those every day and ignore them, or do they actually live them? And here's 2 great examples. So in this is a hospital where they said our values are integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. And guess what we found in their survey? We found those words showing up. And that tells us that the leaders are walking the talk, that they're living the values and bringing them to work every day. And then we measured this organization who said our values are client collaboration, teamwork, delivery, meritocracy, integrity. The only one we saw was client collaboration. When they talk about meritocracy, what really shows up is arrogance and hierarchy. When they talk about teamwork, what they really have is silo mentality and poor communication. So can you see how it's vital that these values get lived, because otherwise your people will tell you otherwise. And frankly, this organization, when the leaders saw this result, they were shocked. They had no idea. But good for them, because they then dug in and did some hard work to turn that situation around. So, how many people have heard of the guy on the left, Abraham Maslow? Very good. You've just reduced this presentation by at least 45 minutes. So, the model on the right-hand side comes from Richard Barrett, and it takes the concepts of self-actualization and shifts that into these levels here that can be understandable by individuals, by teams, by whole organizations, and even at the national level as well. So I'm going to tell you a story now about a full spectrum organization. And so at each level, I'm going to read out kind of what it might look like at each level. And when that's not true for the organization you're with or an organization you know, you just sit down, okay? And we'll see how many people are left standing at the end. Okay. So at level 1, this is called the level of survival. Imagine a company that is conscious and fair in the way it sets prices and pay. Because it's moved beyond fear-driven greed, it's now profitable, financially stable, and creates good shareholder return. It also provides safe and comfortable working conditions for its people. Everybody's standing, I think. Okay, level 2. When people walk into the office each day, they smile and greet each other warmly. There's a healthy sense of respect, and customers feel well looked after. So that's the level of relationships. Now, at level 3, we find the level of self-esteem, which is about high-performing systems. The organization invests in high-performing systems. It trains its people to be excellent at doing their jobs, and the staff are proud to tell others who they work for. Okay, we're getting some movement in the room. Level 4 is the level of transformation. And it sounds woolly, but this is a really practical level. This is an organization that moves forward through innovation and continuous improvement. It has the adaptability and resilience to weather tough times. People feel empowered and have the courage to ask tough questions. It's okay to make mistakes. Level 5, internal cohesion. This is about sense of purpose and meaning. People feel inspired by the vision and values. There are high levels of trust and a deep sense of purpose, fun, and team spirit. Level 6. This is called making a difference. This is a collaborative working environment for staff, customers, suppliers, and the community, where people focus on win-win for all concerned. The investment in leadership development means that leaders are making a sustainable difference inside and outside the organization. And finally, we find the level of service. This is really about service to humanity. For this group, ethics is not about compliance, but truly doing what they believe is right deep down in their hearts. There is a knowing that by doing their jobs, people are serving society and future generations. So congratulations to those who are still standing up. I guess you're working in a very fulfilled place. Thank you. So, how many of you took the values assessment online? Wow, thank you so much. So you would have seen some of this already, and how this system works is that those words that you pick get allocated into the different levels. So level 1, we find values like profit or financial stability. And level 5 is internal cohesion, what bonds us together. You find trust. So each level has got certain values assigned to it. So very quickly, we can do an alternative way of looking at this as well. We just looked at the 7 levels of a full spectrum organization. This is the 7 levels of bumper stickers. So that's level 1, survival. Level 2 is about relationships. Level 3, this is self-esteem. Now level 4, there were so many level 4, I had to pick 2 subcategories. So continuous learning. And level 4 is also the level of physical, emotional, mental. It's the mental level. That's my favorite. Okay, level 5, internal cohesion. That's a bit deep, that one. Level 6, making a difference. Okay, level 7, being of service. Okay. So, because we're a little bit late, I'm going to go a little bit faster now. These, when we ask questions, we ask about people's personal values. When you did it, you were asked this question here. Now, when we do a full company survey, we also ask about their culture in their organization and what they would like it to be as well. And so here's one real story, because I like storytelling. This is an organization, it was an IT company in the north of England, or is an IT company in the north of England. They were just about to implement 2 expenses control systems and a time clock system. Now, these were 2 systems that told their people, we don't trust you. So we need to put systems in place so that we can check up on you. And what happened was, when they got the results, they found the personal values, they found honesty, commitment, reliability, integrity, and trust. And the leadership team looked at that list and they said, what the hell are we doing? We're just about to spend about £1 million on putting 2 systems in that tell our people we don't trust them. And what are they telling us? This is who they are. They scrapped both of those investments, and that was the beginning of starting a new dialogue between the staff and the management about how they wanted things to go in there. Because you can see in the middle, that's not a pretty picture. But it started a new dialogue around creating transformation. I want to share with you before you get to play with your stuff, I want to share with you one principle that we have found across the world as we're doing this. And this is this principle: beliefs divide and values unite. And this became really clear to us. We did a values assessment for the Latvian government in 2007. And Richard and I were working with the government, with the parliament, and we saw these results. Now, these are actually Latvian citizens and Russian immigrants who live in Latvia. Now, these 2 groups of people don't like each other very much. There's a lot of racial tension that goes on between them. And when we looked at these results, we found that most of what they were actually looking for the future was the same. And what the government did was they started to take groups of teenagers from these 2 different racial groups and put them together and said, let's talk about this. Let's really start to talk about how we bring ourselves together as an entire nation based on the values that unite us rather than the beliefs at this top level that divide us. And let me show you one piece of more recent data that blew me away when I saw it. This was from last year. These are the personal values of people in America who are Democrats and the personal values of people in America who are Republicans. There's one word different in their personal values. And so, what a foundation for having a conversation about what's important and how we create our futures, rather than get in this huge blame game as happens here and happens over there and happens in many countries. The last thing I want to say is that we talked about those limiting values at the bottom. Level 1 is around survival fears, level 2 is around relationship fears, and level 3 is around self-esteem fears. And what we've discovered is that you can actually put all of the fears of all humanity into one tweet. And I'm going to show you it now. Here it is. I do not have enough. That's level 1. I don't have enough stuff, either money or food or shelter or safety, in order to fulfill my needs around survival. Level 2, I am not loved enough. I don't have enough of the sense of belonging or feeling of connectedness to fulfill my needs for relationships. And level 3, I am not enough. And sometimes this could be the most difficult one, because this is really a self-story that goes on in here around, oh, that person's better than I am, or I'll never be good enough to do that. And it's all those stories we tell ourselves about I'm not enough. I don't get enough of the stuff to fulfill my need for my own self-esteem. And in fact, that's only 63 characters. And if we can really understand and name these things about these fears that are getting in our way, then this gives us a big step forward to face our own internal personal fears. Okay, so I'm going to give you the quiz results now before you get to play with your stuff. So, Nation A, do you remember? I think most people said it was USA. This is Denmark. And Nation B, I think the strong shout that came out was France. Actually, that's USA. And then I had a number of shouts for Sweden and Denmark, and so this one is Bhutan. How many people know what's happening in Bhutan? Okay, well our results show that this is working.